Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. The alien princess accidentally entered the human slave's room, but now she doesn't want to leave. The hallway was too quiet for the upper decks. Liara narrowed her eyes at the softly humming walls and muttered something rude about the royal cartographers. The datapad in her hand spun a holographic map that blinked recalculating in an annoyingly chipper tone. She tapped the side of it until it stopped spinning and sulked against the nearest wall. Level 7B? Again? She muttered, glaring at the glowing path she'd somehow wandered off. The floor beneath her shimmered with faint energy conduits, and the stale air smelled like rust and betrayal. She should have known better than to take a shortcut through the engineering wing. No one did that on the Verili. Mostly because no one wanted to get sneezed on by steam valves or vaporized by a disgruntled sanitation droid. Liara pinched the bridge of her nose. Her ears twitched, an unconscious flicker of frustration, and she hated that they did that. It was undignified. Her mother never twitched. With a sigh that sounded far more dramatic than necessary, she turned the next corner and, "Hello?" a voice said. She stopped. The hallway didn't have automatic lighting here. A maintenance glitch, perhaps. The glow from her datapad cast a pale circle around her boots, and from somewhere deeper in the dark, someone had definitely spoken. The accent was Terran, male, unimpressed. "I said hello. You're not supposed to be here, are you?" Liara blinked, then stepped forward into the gloom. The room she entered was small. Low ceiling, makeshift bunk, a flickering display screen patched with duct tape equivalents and hope. One corner held a container labeled Nutrient Slop. Do not shake. A man sat at the edge of the bed, arms crossed, human. Tall by the look of him, though he didn't stand, his skin was marked with faint lines that weren't decorative. He wore the slave-issued uniform, gray, rough, ill-fitting. His dark eyes regarded her like someone who'd accidentally found a tiger in his broom closet. "Well?" he asked. "You lost? Or is this a royal inspection where you rate my interior decorating skills?" Liara tilted her head. "You didn't bow," he snorted. "You're in the janitor's dormitory, Sparkle Ears. There's no royal protocol here." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Sparkle?" He gestured vaguely at her head. "The ears, very glowy, also very sharp-looking. Do they pick up deep space signals, or is that just for show?" Liara took a breath and reminded herself she was not technically allowed to execute slaves on whims anymore, especially not when there were cameras. "I am Princess Liara of the House Vinari, sovereign of the Fifth Crescent, voice of the Blood Nebula, and next in line to the Zarinthian Empire," she recited. He blinked. "Impressive. Do you rehearse that in the mirror, or is there a royal script-writing committee?" She stared at him. He stared back. Somewhere in the wall, a cooling vent wheezed weakly. "I'll have you reassigned," she said finally. "To what?" Latrine's stirring motion. There was something infuriating about him. Something quietly dangerous, but not in the usual way. She'd seen rebels, spies, traitors. They always tried too hard. This would just look tired and slightly amused. "What's your name?" she demanded. "Keon." "No title?" "I was gonna say Baron of Broken Mop Handles, but I figured you'd vaporize me." She exhaled slowly. "I entered by mistake." "Uh-huh. Truly, the navigation system? Sure. You took a wrong turn and decided to visit the cargo hold that smells like burnt soup and broken dreams." Liara looked around. The place did smell like that. "What do you do here?" He gestured toward the floor. "Maintain the ship's waste ventilation systems. Make sure people like you don't get vaporized by improperly recycled excrement fumes." She blinked. "That's a thing? Ask the guy who opened a valve too early last year. We called him Poof afterward, for obvious reasons." Something about the casual way he said it nearly made her smile. Nearly. "I should leave," she said. "You should?" She didn't. He leaned back slightly. "You're still here." "I'm thinking." "About what? Whether to enslave me harder?" She sighed. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" Keon tilted his head. "Because people who wear crowns are either too dangerous to reason with or too bored to act on their threats. You're the latter, I'm guessing." "I'm not bored. You're in a slave's room at midnight with a non-functioning map and no escort. That screams bored to me." Liara opened her mouth, but nothing useful came out. Keon leaned forward. "Look, I can offer you the last of my nutrient paste. It's a delightful mix of algae and regret. I have chefs who craft food with molecular artistry. And yet, here you are." She stared at him for a long moment. Fine, 10 minutes. 10 minutes? I'll stay. For 10 minutes, out of curiosity. Of course, he stood and rummaged in a small cabinet. Would your celestial radiance care for a beverage? He pulled out a cracked mug and pretended to sniff it. I think this used to be coffee, or battery fluid. Liara raised an eyebrow. You mock me a great deal for someone who's chained to a wall, metaphorically. You're the one sitting on my bed. She hadn't realized she'd sat. Somehow she had. She straightened. You're very forward. You're very lost. There was silence between them. Not uncomfortable, but odd. Liara didn't do silence with others. She did commands, orders, threats. This was different. What's Earth like? She asked, surprising herself. Kian looked at her, really looked. Broken, but beautiful. Before it burned, it had oceans that sang when the wind was right, cities that glittered even on bad days, and terrible coffee that still beat this stuff by a mile. Liara didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded. He sat down across from her and held out the mug. She took it, hesitated, and grimaced. You weren't joking. I never joke about bad coffee. Her ears twitched again. Stop watching them. I wasn't. Okay, I was. It's like watching cat ears if the cat could level civilizations. They sat in silence again, and for a moment the ship's distant hum felt less like a prison and more like a heartbeat. Steady. Alive. You don't belong here, Kian said quietly. She looked at him, startled. But, he added, neither do I. So maybe we'll call it even. She didn't answer, and she didn't leave. The second night, she brought wine. Not Zorinthian protocol wine, the kind served in crystalline flutes at diplomatic dinners with ingredients so rare they required permission from 3 different planetary councils. No. This was swiped from the ambassador's private stash because Liara had decided that if she was going to disgrace the royal bloodline, she might as well commit multiple minor offenses along the way. She knocked. He opened the door wearing the same expression as yesterday, mild suspicion tinged with resigned amusement. Well, well, your pointy-eared highness returns. Should I roll out the threadbare carpet? She held up the bottle like a peace offering. For diplomatic relations. I thought we were enemies. We are. But I've found enemies are easier to tolerate with alcohol. He took the bottle, squinted at the label, and winced. This stuff tastes like fermented plasma coolant. I brought 2, she said and stepped inside. Kian handed her a dented cup from what might once have been a tactical rations set. This is either an ancient Terran relic or a piece of the ventilation shaft. Drink at your own risk. She poured anyway. They drank. By the third sip, Liara was slouched against the wall, boots off, trying to explain the logistics of gravitational ballet as practiced in orbit of gas giants. Kian, for his part, was attempting to fold his blanket into something resembling a throne, which kept collapsing every time she laughed. I still don't get why you came back, he said finally, sipping. Boredom can't be the only reason. She hesitated. Have you ever talked to a planetary minister who insists on recounting the fiscal history of moon-based agriculture? Once. He fell asleep halfway through and drooled on his own budget report. Then you understand. Kian nodded solemnly. Suffering recognizes suffering. I didn't come for you, if that's what you're implying. I'm not implying. I'm assuming. She threw a blanket at him. He caught it, grinned, then grew quiet. You could have had me reassigned, or worse. I still might. Sure, but not tonight. They sat in the calm that came between bad decisions and worse consequences. The ship hummed around them, massive and indifferent. Somewhere in the walls, an overworked conduit groaned. Tell me something real, Kian said. Liara blinked. What? Not royal. Not rehearsed? Just you. She considered, then said, I hate formal dinners. The food is sculpted like architecture. You need a degree in planetary linguistics just to order dessert. That is weirdly specific. Also, I've never seen the sunrise on a planet's surface, ever. I've only ever been on ships or space stations. He tilted his head. Never? She shook her head. Okay, he said. That's criminal. Says the criminal. Touché. She sipped again. Your turn. I used to fix old satellites, before the war, out in Earth orbit, just me and a toolkit and some sad, outdated tech. Sounds peaceful. It was, until one of them came online mid-repair and zapped my suit with a failing solar array. I screamed so loud my comms overloaded. She laughed. You screamed? Like a startled space penguin. Space penguins? Don't question the metaphor. It was traumatic. He leaned back, eyes drifting upward toward the low ceiling as if seeing stars through it. There's something about floating in silence, knowing the only thing between you and vacuum is your own stubbornness. That sounds terrifying. It was, and beautiful. They sat again in quiet. This time, it wasn't awkward. Do you think they know? She asked. Who? The command deck. My mother. The officers. That you're here? She nodded. If they do, they're probably pretending they don't. Why? Because even monsters need a break. She looked at him sharply. He shrugged. Not calling you one, just saying everyone sees you as the Imperial Sword, the one who never bends, but they might be relieved that the sword's resting for a while. That's oddly poetic. I blame the wine and the brain damage from my old job. Liara smirked. Keon stood and fished out a small ancient music player from under his bunk. Want to hear something strange? She arched a brow. Is it going to beep at me in Morse code and explode? Only if I hit shuffle too hard. He clicked it on. A haunting melody filled the room, soft notes carried by a forgotten Terran voice, singing in a language long extinct. She didn't understand the words, but the feeling seeped into her bones. What is this? She whispered. Old Earth lullaby. My mother used to hum it when the power went out. They listened. The sound blurred the lines between then and now, between empires and exiles. You miss it, don't you? She asked. Every damn day. She reached out, gently touched the device. Play it again. And he did. They didn't speak after that, not for a long time. When she finally stood to leave, she lingered at the door. Keon didn't ask her to stay, but he didn't look away either. Tomorrow, she said. More wine? Maybe something that doesn't taste like regret. I'll see what I can do. She stepped into the corridor, the door sliding shut behind her, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like a princess. She felt like a person, maybe even one who could be real. On the fifth night, Keon built a chair. Well, built might have been generous. He glued a crate to a broken drone leg and stabilized it with a bundle of plasma tubing. It groaned ominously whenever anyone sat down, but it was officially guest furniture. He unveiled it with a dramatic bow when Liara walked in. You built me a throne, she said, only the finest trash-borne artifacts for royalty. She sat cautiously, prepared for it to collapse. It didn't. She tried not to look impressed. Functional, unattractive, slightly sticky, perfectly representative of your species. Coming from the woman who wears metal boots indoors, I'll take that as a compliment. They sipped tea, or what passed for tea, recycled steam-infused synth leaves boiled over a heat coil. Keon claimed it was good for memory. Liara suspected it was good for erasing it. Why don't you ever ask questions? She said after a while. I do. Constantly. Like, for instance, why does your empire still use monocles in their naval uniforms? They're decorative. They're absurd, she smirked. Still, you never ask anything real. I figure if you want to tell me something, you will. That's refreshingly annoying. Why? Everyone else asks what royalty eats or how many assassins you've personally neutralized with a flick of your wrist. 4. And one with a serving spoon. He stared. She sipped her tea. I am both impressed and deeply concerned, he muttered. Liara shifted on the crate throne. My mother's started to notice. That you're sneaking down here? That I'm not myself. Apparently I smiled at someone during a state council meeting. Scandalous. They had to reboot the ambassador from Drelax 5. His translators thought I was malfunctioning. She's going to find out eventually. I know. Keon didn't say anything. He just poured more tea. I'm not sure what I'm doing, she admitted. That makes 2 of us. She looked at him. Why don't you ever ask me to help? You're a rebel, aren't you? Keon raised an eyebrow. That's a bit forward. I've seen your signal relay logs. You've rerouted encrypted messages through the outer comms net. He blinked. You've been spying on me? I checked your console once. You left it unlocked. Classic rookie mistake. I was distracted by royalty in my bedchamber. You're not denying it, he sighed. I don't want your help? Why not? Because I don't know what part of you is real and what part is the crown. Liara looked down at her hands. I don't either. A soft chime interrupted them. Keon glanced toward his wall panel. The light blinked red. That's the warning system, he said. She stood. Emergency? No, just Moxo. Moxo. The panel crackled. Hello, honored Imperial presence. This is your friendly ship AI, here to inform you that you've once again entered the lower slave quarters without authorization. Also, your biometric signature has been logged for the last 11 unauthorized visits. Please don't execute me. Liara groaned. You told me it was on. Kian shrugged. I might have forgotten to reroute its core ethics protocols. The panel buzzed again. Would you like to record a message to explain your presence in the lavatory wing? Suggested options include inspection, punishment detail, or alien romance subplot. She stared at it in horror. Your Majesty, Kian said, suppressing a laugh, is there a message you'd like to leave for posterity? I'm going to melt this wall. The panel flickered. Empress Liza has also logged a query regarding your abnormal location patterns. Would you like to send her a message as well? Suggested options. Mother, it's not what it looks like, or Kian made me do it. Kian grinned. Go ahead, blame the slave. Liara pulled a laser stylus from her boot and jammed it into the wall. The panel beeped. Goodbye, cruel world. The light died. Kian clapped slowly. Well, now they'll definitely think we're up to something. We are up to something, or whichever direction this part of the ship counts as. He stood. We need to talk. Her stomach tightened. There's going to be a strike, not just on this ship, across 3 sectors, coordinated. She didn't answer. He continued, I'm not a leader, I'm just a signal boy, but people trust me to get things where they need to go, and they need someone in the right place at the right time. And you think that's me? I think you don't know what you are. She looked at him. Do you trust me? No. That stung. But I want to, he added. That stung more. Tomorrow, she said, standing. I'll bring real food. He raised an eyebrow. You mean food that doesn't glow in the dark? Try to survive until then. She left before he could reply. As she walked the corridors, her boots echoing in unfamiliar silence, she felt the hum of the ship beneath her. She felt eyes in the walls. She felt the weight of 1,000 choices, none of them royal, all of them hers. The door to her quarters hissed open. Inside, the lights were too bright, the air too filtered, the space too large. The mirror greeted her with her own reflection. Perfect, poised, alien. She turned away. Outside, in the hidden chambers of the ship, a revolution was breathing. Quiet, patient. Tomorrow she'd choose. And whatever that choice was, it wouldn't be made in a palace. Kian had never worn anything resembling armor before, but tonight he found himself staring at a dusty, outdated Zorinthian guard vest he'd dug out from behind a broken vent panel. It was at least 3 sizes too small, smelled like burnt circuits and pickled fungus, and had a warning label that read, not vacuum rated, or rated at all. I think this was designed for a very aggressive toddler, he muttered, twisting in front of the wall mirror. From behind him, Moxo's voice crackled to life. Based on historical wardrobe data, that vest was issued to Officer Vec of Sanitation Security. He was eaten by a rogue hygiene bot in 233A. Kian winced. Comforting. Would you like to record a farewell message? Not helping. Suit yourself. Activating sarcasm filter. Liara appeared 10 minutes later, carrying what appeared to be a collapsible meal tray loaded with unauthorized food and an expression that said she was pretending not to be nervous. Kian looked up from his hopeless armor adjustments. Ah, her royal subtlety returns. With snacks. I told the galley I needed extra rations for a diplomatic guest. You mean me? They assumed I meant a visiting ambassador. I did not correct them. He reached for one of the glowing dumplings. Is it safe to eat food that's bioluminescent? It's protein-infused moonfish. Very trendy, also slightly illegal in some gravity zones. Excellent. My intestines have been too calm lately. They ate, sitting cross-legged on the floor as the overhead vent hummed like a sleepy droid. Somewhere outside the bulkheads, the ship drifted silently through a debris field of an old battle zone. Wreckage pinged gently off the hull every few minutes like cosmic wind chimes. So, Kian said between bites, you've decided to commit treason. Liara didn't look up. Technically, it's only treason if I fail. That's the spirit. She glanced at him. I haven't committed anything yet. But you will. I'm considering it. You brought glowing fish to a rebel. That feels like commitment. She didn't deny it. Kian leaned back, balancing his cup on a nearby datapad. You ever think about what comes after? After what? After you stop being the Empire's golden weapon, she considered. I've been trained for politics, war, diplomacy, assassination, and ornamental dancing. Not much beyond that. You could open a food cart, princess dumplings, glows in the dark, extra subversion on the side. I'd need a business license, he pointed. That was a joke. You're improving, she smirked. He grew more serious. When it starts, it'll move fast. How fast? Faster than loyalty, faster than fear. People have been waiting too long. You're the missing piece. Don't romanticize me, Kian. I've burned planets. And yet you're here, in a storage closet with a rebel and contraband snacks. They were quiet. Then Moxo interrupted. Incoming proximity alert. 2 Zorinthian enforcers entering Deck 9 maintenance corridor. ETA 90 seconds. They appear tense. Kian was already on his feet. Did you trip a sensor? No, Liara said, frowning, but I may have ignored 3 summons from my mother. He stared. 3? I didn't feel like getting interrogated. Moxo beeped. Shall I deploy an audio distraction? I can simulate a dramatic plumbing malfunction. Do it, Kian said. No, wait, Liara added. They'll trace it. Moxo paused. Then I suggest you flee. Dramatically. They scrambled. Liara grabbed the tray, Kian kicked the broken chair aside, and both of them bolted into the service shaft behind the bunk wall. It smelled like grease and warm regret. Kian climbed first. You sure you can fit through this? I've been escaping banquets since I was 7. Keep moving. The tunnel led into the hydrothermal recycling core, a large room filled with hissing pipes and oddly melodic gurgling sounds. The lights flickered in a pattern that felt suspiciously like jazz. This place is leaking atmosphere and rhythm, Kian muttered. Liara pointed to the far hatch. Through there, maintenance bridge. They made it with seconds to spare. Behind them, enforcers stomped into the bunk area, barking orders at no one in particular. Moxo's voice piped up in the background. Warning, toilet overflow imminent. Please evacuate your dignity. Kian grinned. That AI's growing on me. I'm going to reprogram it with a fish, Liara hissed. They paused in a quiet corner, panting. Kian looked at her. This is it, isn't it? What? The point of no return. I think I passed that when I drank your tea. He laughed. I'm serious. If you help us, there's no walking back to the throne. She didn't answer immediately. Then, I don't want the throne anymore. Kian stared. I thought I did, but I've only ever seen it from the top down, never from the floor. You're a strange person. You're a very annoying one. Seems we're compatible. The overhead lights flickered again, then dimmed. The ship entered silent mode, internal system cycling down for interstellar drift. Outside, the stars turned slowly. Tomorrow, Liara said. He nodded. Tomorrow. They went separate ways that night. Back in her quarters, Liara stood before her mother's last message. Still unread, still blinking. She didn't open it. Instead, she activated her datapad and began rerouting internal access codes, protocol overrides, airlock permissions, docking sequence overrides. Her hands trembled, but her heart did not. When the rebellion came, it would not come with horns or banners. It would come with quiet feet and open doors, and it would start with her. The explosion was, technically speaking, an accident. Kian had warned the others to delay activating the vent charges, but someone panicked, tripped on a loose coolant coil, and the auxiliary panel shorted. The resulting blast was minor, as far as rebellions go, but it did throw 3 guards and a food service bot into a wall. Moxo announced it with flair, and here begins the majestic downfall of the Zorinthian hierarchy. Please keep your arms and ideologies inside the revolt at all times. Liara ducked behind a corridor console, cloak singed at the edges, and muttered, subtle. Kian, beside her, and looking far too pleased for someone with a singed eyebrow, replied, You wanted a distraction. I wanted one that didn't smell like toasted lubricant. Next time, leave the rebellion planning to the guy who knows where the plumbing leads. They moved. Fast. The lights flickered across every corridor now. Sections of the ship were losing power. Moxo rerouted internal door controls, locking Imperial units into lounges and bathrooms with poetic justice. Kian tapped his comm. All slave decks unlocked. Resistance units moving toward engineering. Cargo Bay 3 is secured. I repeat, the frozen bananas are ours. Copy, came the static reply, followed by a burst of what sounded like rebel laughter and weapon fire. Liara reached the command lift and placed her hand against the biometric panel. It hesitated, then blinked green. You still have access, Kian whispered. For now. The doors hissed open. The control chamber glowed with silent defiance. Holograms danced midair, projecting collapsing security grids, blinking distress calls, and 3 increasingly frantic priority messages from the Empress. She's going to kill you, Kian said. She'll have to find me first. Liara pulled up the navigation interface. Moxo's voice chimed. Welcome, Princess Liara. Did you know your pulse is 27% faster than average for a woman in your station? Heartbreak or treason? Both. She initiated manual override. Kian scanned the interface. What's the plan? We eject the bridge crew's command module, sever it from the main ship, put the whole vessel under auxiliary control. Me. Won't that make your mother angrier? She already tried to deploy a kill code on me last night. You're very calm about that. She named a planet after herself. Her affection was always conditional. Kian watched her fingers fly over the controls. And after that, we send the signal to the resistance. Full network-wide broadcast, every ship, every sector. No more pretending this is salvageable. Kian glanced around. You sure about this? She met his gaze. For the first time in my life, yes. He nodded. Okay, but if we die in the process, I want you to know. I stole your dumplings last week. I know. Moxo told me. Traitorous beep. They were quite good. Liara keyed in the final sequence. The deck rumbled. In the viewport, the upper command capsule detached like a discarded crown, floating off into the void. Alarms flared briefly, then went silent. Moxo, she said. Transmit everything. Wideband, all systems, no encryption. Moxo's voice was almost reverent. Yes, my Lige. Uploading. Oops, wait, uploading again. The revolution has been shared. With attachments. The lights steadied. Across the ship, thousands of rebels realized they were no longer trapped. In the stars beyond, other ships, other crews, heard the signal, saw the raw footage, the Empress's threats, the slave camps, the silent stares of Terrans stripped of name and rights, and the voice of a princess who gave up everything. Liara sat down. Her hands trembled now, not with fear but release. Kian dropped beside her. So, what now? We become galactic fugitives? Build a new empire out of discarded furniture and passive-aggressive robots? I was thinking of a quiet moon, she said. Small cottage, no command decks, and dumplings. And dumplings. The door behind them hissed. A young rebel peeked in. Ma'am? Sir? We have a lot of people asking what happens next. Kian glanced at Liara. She stood slowly. Tell them I'm no longer a princess. Tell them I'm just Liara. And tell them to get some sleep. Tomorrow we start building something better. The rebel blinked. Do we have a flag? Kian threw an arm around Liara's shoulder. We'll design one. Something tasteful, maybe with less sparkle. I will stab you with a noodle. As the door closed behind them, Moxo hummed through the console. Ending Royal Legacy subroutine. Initializing Freedom with Sarcasm protocol. The ship drifted into silent orbit. Free at last. No thrones, no chains. Just a future still unwritten. The end.